Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see you. Good to see you out there also on the live stream and those that are with us in our sanctuary. We're going to start with Kiva Moed, page 3, number 11. Please sing, clap. Let's feel your energy, hear your energy.
Kiva Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for coming. There are a few less people this Friday than they were last Friday, and I don't know if that's because of the Delta variant is scaring people away, or maybe it's because tonight's the opening night of the Olympics, and a lot of people are curious what that's going to look like with nobody in the room but a few athletes. I don't know, but in any event, welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here, and we welcome you as we say Shabbat Shalom, and welcome as well everyone who's joining us on the live stream. And of course, if it wasn't for COVID, I'd be asking everyone to come forward, but this is good. This is good. Stay right there. Tonight, this Shabbat actually is one of those special Shabbatot during the year that has a name. And it's called Shabbat Nachamu, after the Haftarah portion from the book of Isaiah that says, Nachamu, Nachamu et Ami, comfort, comfort my people, says Adonai, says God. And this Haftarah is always read on this Shabbat, which is the Sabbath following Tisha B'Av, which I think I talked about it last week. It started last Saturday night at the end of Shabbat. It's the holiday that commemorates the destruction of both the ancient temples and a whole bunch of other calamities that befell the Jewish people on that same day. For us as modern Jews today, it's a holiday that's still observed, but it has a different feel to it. Now that we have Yom HaShoah, the day we commemorate the Holocaust. And that holiday commemorates the destruction of the temple, which of course has not been rebuilt, but we have once again our homeland. We have the modern state of Israel. So it's still observed, but it has a different feel. And Nachamu is all about comfort of our people. It's actually one of 7 Shabbatot, the 7 Shabbatot of comfort following Tisha B'Av. And on the other end of that, Rosh Hashanah. Did you just almost faint?
I made a face, I know that.
7 weeks from now. So it's the comfort that we receive from God after the destruction of the temple. But the rabbis interpret it in an interesting way, because they say the comfort we receive from God is actually the comfort that we give to one another. So I hope the Sabbath of comfort and being here tonight, whether you're sitting here in the sanctuary or joining us from home, is a comforting Shabbat as we worship and celebrate together this Shabbat. And now let's continue on page 6 with Lecha Dodi.
Verses 1, 2, and 4.
Lecha Lecha Dodi, Lecha Lecha Kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Tikabelas. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Lecha Lecha Kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Tikabelas. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Lecha Kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Tikabelas. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Lecha Lecha Kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Tikabelas.
Shamor v'zahor v'dibor echad.
Yishme'anu Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem tiferet v'letila lecha lecha dodi lecha lecha kala b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lecha lecha dodi lecha lecha kala b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lekat Shabbat nefuden elcha, kini nekor habenaha, merosh meketen nesucha, sofa hasem v'mashlecha filanana, lecha lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lecha lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Boi b'shalom, ateret ba'ala,
Gam b'simcha u'v'tzala. Tov emunei am zegula.
boi kala, la 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 la, lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lecha lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lecha lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. Lecha lecha dodi, lecha lecha kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat tikabelas. You know, with the back door open, this is a huge space for a relatively small number of people. So throughout our service, I want to encourage you to fill the space with your singing and with your ruach. And if you feel like getting up and dancing, as Kira Shabbat was about to do, that's quite all right too. We continue now with the lighting for our candles for Shabbat on page 8, and it's my pleasure to invite forward Deborah Blinder, a new member of our board of directors and our second VP, to light the candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 9, and I invite those of you who are able to please rise, either physically or in spirit, as we join together in the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Join us as we sing together via Hafta in English, Thou Shalt Love.
Bottom of the page 10.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing, help me finish it, that there's just
too little of.
This well-known Burt Bacharach song from 1965, composed with lyrics from Hal David, both Jews, by the way, speaks an important truth. Our world is much better and much kinder and more humane when we focus on love rather than hate. And Jewish tradition is well aware of this. And one of the other important themes this Shabbat, along with comfort, is the theme of love. We just sang the V'ahavta, which begins by saying, "You shall love Adonai your God." And guess what? Those words are in our Torah portion tonight. The Torah commands, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And the Torah also says, love the stranger. And it also says, love your neighbor as yourself. And we are asked to receive God's love in the form of Torah, in the form of community, in the form of history, and in the wonders of nature. And you know, these commandments constitute the most simple and yet the most complicated challenge of living a holy life. Because love, truthfully, love is the measure for my Jewish practice. Every mitzvah I keep, every prayer I say should be done and should be said with the intention of adding more love into this world. But I have to do it with intention. I have to pay attention. I have to open my heart and connect myself to the divine essence that is sometimes hidden in things. Even my mic making that noise. That's why the commandment says, set these words which I command you today upon your heart, because our hearts are not always open. But if these words are waiting there on top of our heart, they will go inside, God willing, when our hearts are open. As Rabbi Sheffield Gold has taught, learning to love and to be loved is the most rigorous spiritual path there is. We continue on page 11 with Micha Mocha.
Mi chamocha, ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha, ne'davat kodesh, zorat tehilot, osei pelech. Mi chamocha, ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha, ne'davat kodesh, zorat tehilot, osei pelech. Tehara, Uvanecha, Gorgei Ayam
speaking of love.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Try that.
Let there be love
And
understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Vehamidenu, Shomreinu Lechayim. Ufrotzalenu, Sukkot Shlomecha. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let there be shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Let there be love
and
understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from
life's storms. So nice when we can hear you like that.
You've learned that.
There you go.
I think we introduced that melody at the beginning
Yes.
of COVID, never in the room with people, so you were listening and singing along. That makes us feel really good. We continue on page 13, and I invite those of you who are able to please rise, and those who can't to rise in their hearts as we join together in chanting the Amidah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imakeinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Romel Hasadim Tovim, Vekoneh Hakol, V'zocher Hasei Avot V'Imaot, U'mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo V'Rahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah Rab le'Moshiach, Mechapel chayim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Solomon rofim berofel olim. Umatir hasurim. Umekayim emuratol. Ishaneh ha'afar. Michamocha ba'gevurot. Umido melech. Melech me'mis. Umechayeh. Umasmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman nata lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yehalelu chasecha. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated.
Page 16, Shalom Rav. Grant us peace.
Shalom Rav, Kol Yisrael Amcha, Tazim Le'olam. 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 Ki atah hu melech adon, le'lo hashalom. Ki atah hu melech adon, le'lo hashalom. Shalom Rav, Kol Yisrael Amcha, Tazim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Kol Yisrael Amcha, Tazim Le'olam. V'tomenecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. Bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Kol Yisrael Amcha, Tazim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Kol Yisrael Amcha, Tazim Le'olam. Tazim Let us take a few quiet moments to continue this mood of Sabbath peace, a great peace, a Shalom Rav, as we turn inward to our hearts and to our minds and count the blessings from this past week and anticipation of the week ahead. Tfilat Halev, the prayer of the heart.
Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world.
I want to thank Lindy for inspiring us with that absolutely gorgeous melody for Nachamu, and of course, the absolute gorgeous way that she sings it. I had the goosies, the tingles. I hope you do too. New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman wrote an interesting column a few years back about an experience he had on a trip to Paris. He said that when he got off the plane, he was met by the taxi driver who was sent to pick him up. The man was carrying a sign with his name on it, but as Thomas Friedman approached him, he noticed the man seemed to be talking to himself. When he got closer, of course, he realized that he had a Bluetooth wireless in his ear and that he was in deep conversation. Friedman pointed to himself as the person he was supposed to meet, and the taxi driver nodded and just kept on talking to whomever was on the other end of the line. When the luggage arrived, Thomas Friedman took it off the conveyor belt, and the driver pointed towards the exit, and the two of them left the terminal, and the taxi driver continued talking on the phone. When they got into the car, Mr. Friedman asked him if he knew the name of the hotel where he was going to stay, and the driver said no, and so he showed him the address, and the taxi driver took it, and he went on with the conversation. After the car started to roll, Thomas Friedman says that he noticed the driver had a movie playing on the screen on the dashboard.
The reason he noticed was that between the drivers talking on the phone and the sound of the movie, he could barely concentrate. He was sitting in the back seat, working on his laptop, trying to finish a column that he was working on, but the noise coming from the front seat was far too distracting, so he put his laptop away and he listened to a Stevie Nicks album he had on his iTunes instead. When he got to his hotel and he got out of the taxi, he reflected on the trip. He and the driver had been together for almost an hour, and between the two of them, they had been doing 6 different things. The driver was driving, talking on the phone, and watching a video, a little scary if you ask me. Tom Friedman had been writing, working on his laptop, and listening to an album. There was only one thing that the two of them had not done during the entire trip, which is talk to each other. Friedman says that it was too bad. The driver was a young French-speaking African who probably had a lot of interesting stories he might have told him. The two of them may have been traveling in the same car, but they could just as well have been 1,000,000 miles apart for all the conversation they had with each other. Thomas Friedman says that when he reflected on the experience, he realized that technology is dividing us at the same time it is uniting us. Technology, as he puts it, can make the far feel near and the near feel far. The driver may have been talking to his mother in Africa, which is wonderful, but they were 2 feet apart from each other and not talking at all, which is not so wonderful. Thomas Friedman told this story of what happened to him in the taxi to Linda Stone, a technologist who labeled the disease of the internet as continuous partial attention. And she said, "We are so accessible that we are inaccessible. We can't find the off switch on our devices or on ourselves. And as a result, we are everywhere except where we actually are physically." Do you remember when you were a kid and perhaps you were being a little hyperactive and your mother or your father saw you chewing gum and talking or doing your homework and watching TV or walking and reading at the same time, and they would say, "One thing at a time, please." And if we could process what they were saying while doing all these other things we were doing, we would say, "Uh-huh," and go right on doing all the things we were doing. Well, now that process of doing more than one thing at a time has escalated beyond our parents' wildest imagination because of the new technology. Now we can drive in our home city and do business in China at the same time. Now we can write on our laptop, respond to the latest text message, and listen to our live stream music or favorite program all at the same time. And I'm not sure that this is such a blessing. There's a verse in the Torah for which I now have a new appreciation. In Mishpatim, God calls to Moses to come up onto the mountain, and he says, "Alei Ela ha'ara v'hiyeh sham," which means, "Come up to me to the top of the mountain and be there." What do we need that last phrase for? If Moses is going to climb up to the top of the mountain, won't he be there? The Kotzker Rebbe explains it this way: to climb up to the top of the mountain is easy, but to be there, to really be there, to focus on where you are and not get caught up in thinking about other things, or other places. That is very difficult to do. This Shabbat, our Torah portion, is filled with some of the most important messages of our faith, the Shema and the V'ahavta and the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, the 10 fundamental statements upon which all human civilization depends. And I'm fascinated by one phrase that appears in the 4th commandment. The Torah says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho, guard the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Ka'asher tziva Adonai Elohecha, as the Lord your God has commanded you. And then it says, Sheshet yamim ta'avod, ba'asita kol malachtecha. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. How can you possibly do all your work in 6 days? Surely, when you shut down your computer on Friday or close the office, if that's where you work, you leave lots of work still undone. I know I do. That you will have to deal with when Shabbat is over. Surely no one can possibly finish all their work in 6 days. What the text means, I think, is that when Shabbat comes, you should try and feel as if your work is really done. Because if you spend your Shabbat thinking and planning and brooding about how much you have to do as soon as the day is over, you might as well be working. Instead, you should train yourself to feel on the Sabbath as if your work is done. And this is why I propose, in all seriousness, that we ought to post the same sign at the entrance to the Sabbath that we see at the entrance to so many public buildings these days, the one that says, please turn off your cell phone. For if we can train ourselves to disconnect from the world around us, we may be better able to connect to the Spirit that is inside us. So let me thank you for turning off your cell phone when you came into services this evening, assuming you did. And let me suggest, why not keep them off until sundown tomorrow night at the end of Shabbat? I know, it's not an easy thing to do. We worry about what we might miss. But think about it. Most of us here lived a majority of our lives not tethered to a phone with us 24/7, and I think we did just fine. We survived. And if you do this, I promise, you will multiply the chance exponentially that you will have a Shabbat Shalom, a Sabbath of peace in truth. And that, I hope you agree, would be a great blessing indeed. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will.
Amen.
Amen.
I have a little suggestion.
Uh-oh.
Because it's asking a lot for some people to do it for an entire 24 hours at the beginning.
Okay.
But maybe we do it in stages.
Oh.
And you start with when you get home, you don't pick up your devices of whatever that kind of device is, and then, tomorrow you need to. And then the next time you just, you do it by hours instead of maybe by the full. Because I think it'll be a little easier. Some people are going to go into shock.
I think withdrawal, cell phone withdrawal.
I mean, it happens.
Well, Reb Lindy, that's a good compromise.
Okay.
Maybe we can give it a try and do it in installments and see if it works. Could be a blessing. Excuse me?
Grow more hair. You never know.
That I can't promise. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We turn to page 20 and we begin Seder Kriyat Torah, the special service for the reading of Torah. And I invite all those who are able to please stand, and those who can't to stand in spirit.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato. Beit Yaakov lechuvanecha ba'or Adonai, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of our God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'nishtachavu le'hakosho. Please be seated. And are you ready, Carm?
I am ready.
What are you chanting tonight?
Well, I thought I'd chant the Shema and the Ve'ahavta,
Ah.
and I hope that you will chant along with me. The words are in your Siddur at the bottom of page 9. And we'll do the first line of the Shema and the first paragraph of the Ve'ahavta.
Those of us who know how to chant the Ve'ahavta during services are going to be able to chant right along with Karma, because the way we chanted in each of our services, the melody is the same as the trope in the Torah. It's exactly the same. And of course, the words are exactly the same. So this is our chance this evening to feel very wise and proficient indeed.
But a little heads up, because only the first paragraph of the Ve'ahavta is in this section of Torah, the end is going to be just a little bit different.
Oh, don't ruin it. Let's join together in a communal aliyah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha uvchol meodecha behayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta bam, veshivtecha bevetecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshofpecha, uvkumecha, ukshartam leot aliadecha, Vehayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher natan lanu Torah temet, B'chaye olam nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Yasher kochechem.
Yasher koach to all of us. And why did the end of that phrase that most of us know so well, why was the melody different than the way we chanted when we chant the Via Hafta? There is an answer, and that's because, anybody know? Deborah? Right, and the Via Hafta that we chant actually makes a little jump because the following verses are not included, at least in our Reformed tradition. It makes a kind of a big jump, actually, but it's not the end of the prayer, so we don't do that special melody for the end of an aliyah or the end of a section. We just continue on chanting, but tonight that's where we ended, and so you had that big fancy ending. Well done. When the Torah is out, amongst the congregation, we like to say special blessings. In some congregations, blessings for someone going on a trip or someone who's avoided calamity, and most often blessings for good health and for healing for all of us and for our good friends and family, those who need our help, our mitzvot that we can fulfill, caring for them, bringing them meals, calling, sending cards, whatever we can do to give them a little more strength, and our prayers for a refuah shlema, for a full and speedy healing. And this Shabbat
we ask those at home who have someone that they're thinking about and wanted to say their names to please, if you want me to read it out loud, to put it in the chat.
So that by the time I get to the end of the list, Lindy will have those names.
Right.
Those who are in the room, leave your phones, because I will invite you to say aloud names that you'd like to add. You don't have to chat them to Lindy. We're in the same room. We are praying this evening especially for Diane Dakin, Samantha Porteous, Craig Corin, Sally Glick, Randy Watkins, Betty Morgan, Ron and Margaret Ray, Gabrielle Lopez Smith,
Ira Abramson, Bradley Cantor, Jackie Burke, Rebecca Williams, Bert Carlson, Ricardo Holbrook, Philip Blair, Leslie Hirschfield, Christina Vogel, Vivian Culver, Stephen Bonacore, Doralee Saxon, Jonathan Kelly, Lois Meyer, Mike Atarchi, Boaz Abramson, Barry Klein, Victor Altman, Judy Platt, Malka Chadnick Moya, Susie Kritzer, Vicki Goldman, Rose Machado, and Phyllis Klein. And I invite anyone sitting in the room with us who has a name they would like to add, please, to say it aloud. And say it nice and loud. Okay.
And Jay Thompson and Zachary Reiger. Misha Bayrock can be found on page 23.
We add to those names mentioned aloud those of us here who are in need for these same blessings of refuat nefesh and refuat haguf, for healing of mind and body and spirit. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, O God, who heals the sick.
Amen. Continue with a prayer for our country and the state of Israel.
Guardian of life and liberty, grant blessings to our country. Grant our leaders patience and wisdom. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and may we never be lazy in the work of peace. Eternal God, grant blessings to the state of Israel. Protect her people, shelter them with peace, and grant them deliverance from the violence that surrounds them. May they live in harmony with one another and with their neighbors. May the bonds of faith that unite the Jews of all lands be a source of strength and blessing
to each of us and to all the world. And let us say, Amen.
I ask you to rise as our Torah is lifted. Those who are able.
Mizot HaTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe ki lekachta
Natati lachem Torati al ta'azovu. Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha ve'ushar deracheha darkei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Page 25.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. The stories will be told of us when we are here no more. We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon ha'kol. V'ateit yidu ha'leoseh breshit. Shelo asanu kiguyeh ha'aratzot. Ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama. Shelo sam kelkeinu kahem. Ve'gor aleinu kechol amonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlakim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Mayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. U'shemo
Please be seated. At the conclusion of each of our services, we take this quiet moment to remember and to pay tribute to the memory of our loved ones who are no longer with us physically, but whom we carry in our hearts. And so, in a very real way, they are
still with us. They continue to bless us. I invite you, our congregation, to say aloud the names of family members, if you are in the period of Shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning, or Shana.
And if you are praying at home, feel free to put the names of your loved ones in the chat.
I'm okay. Just a frog.
Do you want to go around with the Shloshim?
You can do it.
You do it.
Okay. Names? Anyone? The following names are the names of our loved ones who have a yortzeit, the anniversary of their death sometime in the week ahead. We remember with love Sarah Goldberg, Thelma Rafison, Bart Warschauer, Morris Brockman, Miguel Castillo, Ray Lindenberg, Diane Jin, Rosemary Delgado, Ryan Marich, Lucille Strauss, Samuel Blum, Irene Tratner, Max Sweet, Hannah Ferdman, Ned Suskin, and Lee Krieger. Is there anyone who is present who's observing Yortzeit this Shabbat? Zichronam Livracha. May all their memories be for a blessing and a never-ending source of strength. And we hold in our hearts those who have died and continue to die, sadly, from COVID-19. As we remember as well the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust, so many leaving no one to remember them. We take them into our hearts along with our own loved ones who have died as we rise, those of us who can, and join together in Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'yama divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yamachon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah u'varach le'olam u'lomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yalma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mramav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to the bereaved among us. And we say, amen. Please be seated.
So we're going to say happy birthdays this week to Kama Deshay, Susan Gold, Courtney Carter, Sydney Scott, Robin Primack, Ben Foley, Sophie Goldman. And a thank you to Deborah again for doing our candle lighting this evening. And to Beth, who graced us with her clarinet earlier this evening before we started. And to Karma for chanting so beautifully. And Ari for making all of our live stream happen. So thank you out there who our family is watching. Thank you for being with us and for you being with us too. And we close with Ein Keloheinu, which is on page 29.
Bum 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 ba-dum ba-da-dum bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-da-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-da-dum oops ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum Ein Keloheinu Ein Keloheinu Ein Keloheinu
Shabbat Shalom to all our friends on live stream. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat.